welcome to Season 2, Episode 29 of Comic Book Nation, the official podcast of Comicbook.com. I am your host, Kofi Outlaw, and with me today, we just got the regular crew with us. It's Matt Aguilar and Janelle Wheeler, both back with me.
Yeah. Hey, guys.
And today is Cinco de Mayo, as we are kind of recording this, and it also happens to be Revenge of the 5th to a lot of Star Wars fans, which is now this apparent follow-up to May the 4th, which is kind of Star Wars Day, which has just gone down. And because of that, we now have a bunch of new Star Wars stuff to talk about because it has just been May the 4th. And then an exciting one it was. We got a bunch of new details about where the franchise is headed next, some much needed confirmations. And the finale of Clone Wars has come, and we have a lot to talk about with that. But we're not just going to do Star Wars today. We got to, this is Comic Book Nation, so we got to talk about a WWE star who could be coming to the Marvel Cinematic Universe, making Matt's job a little more secure for 2020. Sylvester Stallone shocks the world with a casual drop that one of our favorite cult movies could be coming back for a sequel. And we're going to talk about the finale of Westworld, some movies you should be maybe watching, some comic stuff because Matt's here and comics are creeping back, and Matt continues his attempt at gaming supremacy with a review of Street of Rage 4. So we're going to take care of all of that as well. So, all right. So right at the top, we got to talk. Like I said, yesterday was May the 4th, and May the 4th be with both of you, but that's over now. Now it's time for Revenge.
As with you.
And we got to talk about what happened on the Star Wars front. So the first thing that we got in our kind of the biggest and best thing in our Star Wars Day reveals was the fact that Lucasfilm confirmed that a new movie is being made with none other than acclaimed Marvel filmmaker / The Mandalorian star Taika Waititi is going to be making a Star Wars movie.
Yeah.
Can we put like horns right here? Like,
Yeah.
burr, burr, burr.
That deserves that.
I don't know if Taika would appreciate that, but I mean, we can.
He likes to club. Come on.
Yay!
So that's pretty good. I mean, Taika's directed Jojo Rabbit, Hunt for the Wild People, Thor Ragnarok. He's going to be directing Thor Love and Thunder, and apparently kind of directing and co-writing this new Star Wars movie with a screenplay by who's also with Christy Wilson Cairns. And who also just wrote the Oscar-nominated 1917, which was one of the most awesome cinematic experiences I've had in years.
What a combo!
So, yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
Right? So, yeah, that's a great combination right there. I mean, the kind of story and the kind of just sequences and stuff that this could be really exciting. But it's really kind of exciting for us because Taika Waititi is, of course, like one of the hottest kind of filmmakers out right now. He's kind of this new wave of very diverse filmmakers that are getting a shot in Hollywood finally. And, he's done great things with kind of taking genre and turning it on its head to create fun stuff like What We Do in the Shadows, which was a great movie and is now like one of my, I love that show. And of course, what he did with Thor Ragnarok, at once taking that Thor franchise when it was dead and turning it into something that was both comedic, but underneath the comedy was also some very good social commentary about colonialism and immigration and all that stuff that didn't piss off the masses, which is really hard to do these days.
Yeah.
Blockbuster entertainment. So
Very true.
And he was also just great in The Mandalorian, both directing episodes and as
he did the last episode, right? The season finale.
I don't want to say it for sure because I can't remember if he or Dave.
I think he did the season finale.
I don't remember.
You guys can check on that, but I'm pretty sure he did, which if he did, I do remember like having so many different elements of like comedy and then also, the serious side, the action, like it was so well balanced. That was probably one of my favorite episodes of the whole season.
If you're right, Janelle, I'm about to click it. If you're right, you've come very far.
Oh, God.
Very impressive. And if not, you're going to Star Wars jail with Brandon.
Oh, no. I'm so scared.
Director was Taika Waititi.
Yay!
Oh, score.
Yeah,
do we have an applause track? Ooh. Do we have an applause track?
I'm a real nerd. Thank you for the slow clap.
Yes, very good, Janelle. Yes. So Taika Waititi did do the finale, which was one of the best episodes of the series. So, looking forward to seeing what else he could do. And like Janelle said, kind of the humor, the kind of the action, the drama, it was all really well balanced, especially in that finale episode. So, and cool sequences Like I always forget his name of his droid in the show, IG-88, because there's, oh my god. This is where
But he
leave me
voices him,
alone,
right?
Star Wars guys. IG-11.
IG-11. Oh.
Yeah, IG-11 and his droid in that sequence, like him and Baby Yoda on the bike and all that stuff. Like
Baby Yoda.
yeah, so seeing that kind of stuff, seeing him bring that more of that to Star Wars is going to be a lot of fun.
I mean, the guy made a movie that was about Hitler and blended that with comedy, and like for someone to be able to take that kind of premise and turn it on its head, that's impressive to apply to something like Star Wars, which has been
let's not do that, because that kind of messed Taika Waititi up. I'm trying to do Jojo Rabbit. I think that was a little bit much on him, but
it was so good though. It was so good. I didn't
see it,
but he had some definite hang-ups about that movie. So we don't need to go that serious with it, but like we just need some good mix of like, something that means something, but is also fun, adventure, action. That's Star Wars to me.
Yeah.
And kind of do it in a new way. So I'm really excited about that.
Me too.
The other kind of big thing, we discussed this on the show where Matt taught us all who Dr. Aphra was at the time. When we heard that there was going to be a new Star Wars series being made that's coming to Disney Plus from Leslie Headland, who is kind of the mind behind Bachelorette and Netflix's the movie Bachelorette, not The Bachelorette.
Yeah, there's already some people going, what?
Yeah, pipe down, you two. Like, yeah.
Thank God.
Don't get too excited. Thank God.
And the final rose is a lightsaber.
Like, is it a princess competition? No. Yeah, Leslie Headland, no. The movie Bachelorette, which is
it's just a bunch of Jedis asking for one more minute.
Rose.
Can I have a moment, please? Thank you.
Yes. Can I steal him for a sec?
Just about one woman trying to tempt a bunch of Jedi. Oh, that was not me. My lightsaber went up. But anyway.
Oh my God.
So Leslie Headland, to get back to it, also did Russian Doll, the Netflix show Russian Doll. And yeah, I mean, like Leslie Headland is a curious choice because she was made, she's going to be doing a Star Wars series for Disney Plus. This was something we knew about. The trades kind of got wind of this, but now Lucasfilm has confirmed it. But it was odd. They didn't say in their confirmation that I noted that it was a female focused show. They didn't kind of make that note, but that's what the trades were saying when the original kind of news leaked to the trades, that it would be female focused, but Lucasfilm has not come out and said that yet. And Matt told us about Dr. Aphra as a thing, as one of the fan favorite people would want to see this series be about. And the more I've actually read up on her and kind of getting into the comics this week.
Same, yeah.
That's an exciting premise for a show.
Seems really cool.
And if you don't know, I'll give you the simple non-Matt version, which is that she is an archaeologist and adventurer who's hired by Darth Vader after the Battle of Yavin, which is when Luke Skywalker blows up the Death Star in A New Hope. To track down artifacts that we can presume are probably Sith artifacts that Darth Vader wants for some, Darth Vader-y reason. And she kind of takes that job and has him as her boss.
Is that a new Darth Vader-y? Is that a new expression?
Darth Vader-y reason, yeah.
I love that.
Because you can't really understand what he's doing. He's got his own ways of doing things. Let's talk about Clone Wars at the end of this. But yeah, so she runs afoul, and eventually her boss, she decides maybe working for the Sith isn't the greatest thing in the world. So then she's now an archaeologist adventurer on the run from Darth Vader, which is a tight spot to be in. But yeah, so she also has a squad of killer assassin droids, a Wookiee. Like it's a little fun-filled, ragtag family.
Yeah.
Yeah, a little.
I have a question.
Firefly meets National Treasure with some Vader-y stuff thrown in. You're good.
It has a very Rogue One like feel if you took some of the like tent, like some of the overly tense stuff out of Rogue One. If you took like
I love Rogue One too.
But like it has that kind of group. That group is very much in that.
Yeah.
Anyway, Janelle, you were saying, sorry to me.
Well, I was wondering, and please don't get upset with me if I might not have read this correctly. Are these all live action that we're hearing about, all these releases, or are any of them animated? Okay.
No, these are both live action. This is a live action series and a live action movie. Yeah.
Right.
How dare you?
Okay, cool. I don't know. Sometimes I feel like
you don't know
it's
your
such
Lucasfilm
an obvious
from your Lucasfilm animation.
How dare you?
But it is. It's
we
such
just
an
gave you
obvious
praise
thing.
for coming so far. Now we have to take it all back. Well,
I feel like
right back
people
down.
don't even specify in the articles or anything because it's so obvious, and I'm this idiot that keeps asking
Yeah, no,
the
it's
questions
like, I
that
mean, it's kind of like Marvel and Marvel TV. Like, people let you know if it's Lucasfilm and
okay.
Yeah.
because
Cool.
if you don't, people like jump down your throat about it. So, yeah,
That's why I was like, please don't kill me.
no, I mean, they're gonna kill you either way. There's already comments saying get her off the show. She's not a real Star Wars fan. You know how.
I had Ariana Grande fans come after me for responding to a tweet about.
I'm sorry.
No, that was so funny.
I'm sorry. I read that article and I'm so sorry.
No, that's a whole nother thing. But I was just like, man, we need to get out of quarantine because people are getting crazier and crazier on the internet right now.
Yeah, I mean, I can't handle all you two's beefs.
I love Ariana Grande. I just don't like her as Meg and Hercules. Just because you wear a high ponytail doesn't mean
at Janelle Wheeler. Like, you can direct all that over there. All right, so finally on the Star Wars front, this wasn't from the Star Wars Day. We're going to get into the Clone Wars kind of recap later on in our deep dive segment. But one thing that was kind of interesting is that in the Rise of Skywalker novel, junior novelization, not even the regular novel.
This is getting ridiculous.
So Rise of Skywalker came out and like it threw this crazy story at us that had more holes than explanations. So ever since, we've been trying to fill in gaps, like we're just like had a drunk boyfriend and now we're trying to like plaster holes in our wall in our apartment because JJ just punched all this stuff in here. And so like now we're trying to plaster all these holes with like other explanations from comic books and novels. So there's been a whole campaign of reading to do just to fill in what the hell the Rise of Skywalker has been about. If you're just not keeping count, we've had the visual book had to fill in some gaps. Yep. The Rise of Kylo Ren had to fill in some gaps, that comic series. The official novel filled in a whole bunch of gaps that changed the entire movie around, like Palpatine's a clone now. Like, yeah, it was all this stuff. So now we're down to the junior novel, and we're still getting new Star Wars revelations out of that they didn't tell us in the movie. And this one is basically that the rule of two, the thing that has governed the Sith since the collapse of the Sith Empire, is apparently BS. They pulled a cruel. They were just being sarcastic with it, like the whole rule of two. It was all sarcasm, just to test people. But really, what it was it was kind of, they explained it away as saying basically that they went with the rule of two to fool the Jedi into thinking there's only two Sith when there could be many more, but to focus on like this idea of there only being two, right? Fooled you, gotcha. But basically, like what this has had to happen is because they got tired of how many times in the franchise dark side users were showing up as major villains and then having to be like, but wait, is this a Sith? Because like there's two.
Yeah.
Like, how does that work? And like, what, like, how is there Count Dooku and Darth Maul and Sidious, and like, how is Asajj Ventress in this? And like, and people were just it was getting too crazy to be like, well, they're not Sith, but they're dark side users. So like, yeah. And then you have the Inquisitors and Rebels who are like this whole powerful dark side users hunting down Jedi. And it's like, so are these Sith Lords? And they're like, well, no, they're just powerful Force use. And it's like, okay, this is getting stupid.
I understand doing this, right? Because yeah, of all the reasons you listed, of like, this is essentially just make it easier on us to keep expanding this universe, and I have to jump through 9 hoops to get a new character in and just call them Sith. However, it is weird that like it gets dropped here, like it's novels, right? Like it seems that's a pretty big thing to just drop in there. Like it would have made sense if it was in the Kylo Ren book or if it was in the regular novelization, like those. It makes sense. But like here, just to slip it in seems really weird. That's a really big deal kind of reveal.
I can tell you from like the site reaction we've had on the site, it is a big deal. People are just like, what? Like, what? Like, but this is Star Wars.
I'm confused. I've read the article like 3 times over, and I'm for a novice, for someone who doesn't really know what's going on.
We just put you on this pedestal. We were like, Janelle's come up.
The TV, the movies, like I'm good, but when we start adding all the books and all the graphic novels, and it's just Someone just shorthand it for us.
Well, female Brandon Davis, I will explain this to you. Here we go.
Thank you.
Wow.
Hey, and I will listen and
so
study.
shady.
I will take notes. I will learn.
We at least we're centering them all on one block now. Like we're getting them all centered on one block, an area of Nashville. So there we go. But so here's how it breaks down. It is confusing, and I'm just messing with you, Janelle. Like it is confusing. So here's Okay, so in the back of the day, so there's two sides to the Force, right? The Jedi are the good guys. The dark side users are called Sith, and they're the bad guys. Back in ancient times, they were basically two armies. The Jedi won the big war between them and basically eradicated the Sith. But one of them survived, and his name was Darth Bane. Don't not to be confused with Batman Bane, but like
yes, I know.
He basically instituted this rule called the Rule of Two, which was because the Sith are all kind of evildoers and schemers and stuff, he felt that the reason their empire collapsed is because they kept screwing each other over and tripping each other up by trying to get power from one another. So basically he said there should only be two. There's a master and an apprentice, right? And there should only be, at any given time, there should only be two. And now we stick to the shadows and we don't like make ourselves known. And there's a master and there's an apprentice. And the master is really the mastermind. I
always knew the master apprentice. I just didn't realize it was a rule. Like
it
was
called
like
the Rule of Two.
Yeah, I didn't understand that.
And so that kind of has been the rule in governing the franchise. But as Star Wars has gotten bigger, and there's had to be more kind of novels and cartoons and comics. Of course, all these stories needed new villains to fight and stuff like that. So you needed a bunch of red lightsabers to go with the green and the blues and the purples. And all that stuff. And so each time there was a new kind of red lightsaber person, we had to have this conversation about, well, how does this fit the Rule of Two? Because if your Star Wars Rebels is an animated series that takes place before when Luke Skywalker's like a little boy, and so there's Darth Sidious, Palpatine, and Darth Vader, those are two. So how is there this whole squad of people called Inquisitors who are Jedi hunters with red lightsabers and use the dark side of the Force? So what are they considered? And it was just becoming this increasingly annoying conversation until in a junior novel, they've now kind of gone back.
Also, can we establish that I understand the whole, like the idea of them being in the shadows and like hiding from the Jedi so that the Jedi are never really sure where the attacks are coming from and stuff. That all is fine. However, how stupid do you have to be if you're like an entire Jedi enforcement force to not know that there are more than two? Can we just this reveal also makes the Jedi look like completely incompetent protectors?
Even more, because you have to remember, like throughout the prequel trilogy, they're not convinced that the Sith are bad.
Yes, exactly. So there's all these people running around. Like it exists everywhere else. Like the Marvel has the Hand and like other things, shadowy organizations.
Voldemort.
That are around and are manipulating things, but you can't pin them. That I get. This says, oh no, we don't believe there are more than two out there. And it's like, how dense are you? There's so many Jedi. It's
the thing that's crazy is the Rule of Two is known, like, because they say it in the Phantom Menace, but there's never been a real good explanation as to why the Jedi even know this at all.
Yeah.
Because they eliminated the Sith and are thought like Sith masters were gone until Sidious revealed that, he was still around. And so it's kind of this thing I wrote about in this article called things that this High Republic thing that they're launching this summer, Star Wars in the books, which takes place like 100 years or 50 years before the prequels. Yeah. Like one of the things they got to explore is how did this whole thing with the Sith get muddled up? Like, because Darth Bane was like 1,000 years before that. So the Sith have still been surviving all that time. And doing stuff until you get to Darth Sidious, and he got trained by Darth Plagueis, who got trained by somebody, And so like they are around through the High Republic. So how is it that like we get to the time of Anakin Skywalker and everybody's still like, no, Sid, we don't even gotta be worried about that. Like, it just makes Yoda and the most of the Jedi we're supposed to love look increasingly bad.
Yeah, because they look like they're incompetent, you know.
And
also, can we address that the names were so much cooler back then? Because we got Plagueis and Sidious, and then we get Palpatine and like who? Those are rent-a-Sith. Like, that's terrible. Vader brought like justice back, but like that's ridiculous, man. Costco Sith.
So are you guys not satisfied with this, with the answer to the rule of 2?
I mean, the continuity, Star Wars, now part of my living is trying to explain that Star Wars continuity is a mess to people. And they're just kind of making it up as they go along.
That's why it's good to just kind of be like me and just like it for what's in front of, right? Like, just kind of buy into the world that you're currently watching.
I'm not co-signing any of that, but
okay.
Yes, maybe,
I think
it is good to be Janelle.
Well, I really do buy into whatever I'm watching. Like, I'm not as critical of
Star Wars simple, it's okay.
I think what this does do though is this very much like with that new High Republic series, they can really, like Kofi said, start to kind of untangle some of this mess and give themselves a clean slate a little bit.
Such a good way to put it.
If they do it right, because it needs it, because this is a mess. Like, this has become trying to explain Cable's backstory to people. Like, this has become that messy, and it's, you know, every conversation goes, well, you got to start here. And when every time you got to start a conversation with like, well, so here's what the writers wanted to do. That's a bad sign. Like, you always have to start with like explaining like what happened behind the scenes before you get to the actual meat. And that
got it.
They could totally do. I think in this case, your approach actually probably makes for a more enjoyable experience because you're not constantly like seeing all the holes.
I'm a consumer of the movies. Like, obvious. I grew up on the movies.
Really, I'm gonna tell you why later, but like, I'm sorry for you if that's the truth to everybody out there, Star Wars, because Clone Wars and all that stuff, like, it makes
also very good though.
Yeah. So
I'm actually really excited to start that because you're just so passionate about it that I'm really pumped.
Thanks. But we're gonna move on from Star Wars for right now. We'll be back. But Matt is very excited, and he's hopping with joy over here. He wants to talk about something. WWE Star coming to the MCU. Matt, tell everybody.
I'm very excited. Why? Because in addition to Becky Lynch making her like not acting debut, but essentially being in another big show in Billions on Showtime this past weekend, someone is reporting, we're getting reports, this is not official, but we are getting reports that Becky Lynch has been cast in a new Marvel movie. We have no idea what the Marvel movie is. We have no idea what the role
like on me, not the movies,
or like how big it is. You know, we don't know if this is gonna, like, I imagine this is not a lead role, but who knows? Maybe it is. It could just be like an appearance type thing. Kind of thinking like, you know, Gina Carano type character in Mandalorian.
Maybe be like a warrior, like in something like that.
Something like that. Now,
like a background warrior.
Yeah, exactly. And still a cool part, you know, like it could be a really cool part, and she's definitely got the personality to like carry that. I'm excited, mostly because if you go to Comicbook.com, you can see me essentially like nerd out and look through a bunch of people she could play, kind of fitting into that role. My biggest hope is that I know this is probably a little too, it depends on what you consider big character. A cult favorite in the Marvel universe is Elsa Bloodstone. If you look at Becky Lynch and just like take her personality and everything that like she is in the ring and stuff into account and merge those two, they'd be the same person. Like, she'd be a badass with a coat, like a trench coat and a monster hunter. Like, how cool is that? You can put her in a bunch of stuff. She could fit in a bunch of different franchises. I'm hoping, again, that's not based on anything but my own just like wants. But I'm stoked because really, if you look at the WWE, we've had Batista make the jump to Drax. We've had Roman Reigns kind of made his recent thing in Hobbs and Shaw. Of course, we have The Rock. John Cena is going to be in Fast and Furious. Like, there's a lot of precedent for like WWE stars kind of coming over and really like knocking acting parts out of the park when they get.
Wait,
like,
John Cena's going to be in Fast and Furious?
Yeah, man. He's going to play Dom's brother.
How do you know that?
What do you mean?
Wasn't it in the?
It's in the trailer.
Yeah, it's in the trailer.
I didn't see any of that.
And we talked about it, but we said that it's kind of weird because they don't look related in any way.
Never mind.
No, it's one of those like, huh? But like whatever.
Like how?
Yeah,
Why?
like
Is
he
he
was-
Swedish? Like
He
then, like,
essentially.
Stop. Let me shut down this conversation because you guys just didn't get the joke. It was a John Cena can't see me joke. But
Oh,
you-
son of a gun!
Yeah.
I did not get that.
Oh,
Well,
no.
I could've
All right,
given
so-
you
it.
even did
Very
the
well done.
can't see me
Yeah,
hand
I know.
thing
I know.
for the podcast
Well
listeners.
done. Yeah.
He did it. That's our fault.
That
We
was- that's
absolutely
my
did
bad.
not
So,
catch
moving
it.
right
totally
along.
right.
Becky Lynch in the MCU. Now that
Wow.
Matt killed this topic, we're going to move right along. Something else that was big.
Sorry.
Sylvester Stallone did a live Instagram Q&A the other day. And, he's funny. Sly's funny because he just starts talking about the past and stuff like that and the glory days. But then he just kind of like drops information that, the world wants to know that he's just like, oh, you're
It was like one sentence.
Yeah.
He barely even muttered it.
But basically, we're getting a Demolition Man sequel is apparently in the works. So there you go, world. Yes.
Where's
I'm
my Cobra?
so excited.
I want to
about
know
this.
what these three shells are all about. Yeah. I want to know what the three shells are all about.
Acknowledge that
It
one.
just looks so
But-
cool.
If you don't know that, you weren't alive in the 90s and didn't respect Demolition.
I acknowledge that one. That was good.
I
See,
remember
I missed-
sneaking and watching that
I
movie.
missed the Cena one, but I picked that one up. I just want to know.
Demolition Man is known for two things: rat burgers and the three shells.
Three shells.
Can I just get where is my Cobra remake? That was rumored so long ago, and he's been working on that. It seems like the same amount of time he's been working on this. I feel like Sylvester Stallone just has so many franchises that you forget about,
Mhm.
like just in his back pocket. And it's just every couple years he's like,
Yeah,
we're
we're getting a Nighthawks reboot.
like, yeah, we're just gonna work on this. And he's like, and he always does one of those things of like, oh, we're not just talking about it, like, oh, it's in production. And it's like, okay.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe it'll be good. Here's the big thing though. He never says, I mean, it's a very quick quote, but like, does Snipes have to be in this for you to like feel it's legit? Or can it just be Stallone?
Well, the whole thing was based on their rivalry. Like he was the first one to take him down, and then that's why he has to take him down again.
Right? So like, I mean, if
Kinda.
Snipes like sits this one out, I don't know why he would.
I hope he
I don't know
doesn't.
why
We
he
need
would.
some Snipes.
Right? It just has to.
All I'm saying is, I hear what you're saying, but I don't think a lot of people today qualify Wesley Snipes and the word necessary together.
That's true.
Unless you're talking about Blade.
Yeah, I
Seems
mean,
like everybody
even that we've moved on from. So
Can I get
I
a
don't-
Passenger 57 remake?
I always been.
That's a good movie. I love that movie.
I mean, I would
Um,
love to see them together again, but you're right. I think it could live on, with a different villain.
Yeah,
Just
I mean,
depends on what the story, what they're rocking.
it would be good to see him back again. I mean, it'd be funny
Yeah.
to see him old as hell doing this, but that'd almost be more funny if it was tongue in cheek like that with some good action than trying to like
Yeah.
recast or do son of whatever. I don't know. But yeah, I mean, Demolition Man could be coming. That's great. That is one of the most fun kind of cult classic 90s movies where you tell people like the combination, you say it out loud now and you're just like, what? It's like
The
Sylvester
actors in there?
Stallone,
Oh my gosh.
Wesley Snipes, and Sandra Bullock.
Sandra.
Oh,
With
God,
Dennis
that's right.
Leary, as also like a
Yes!
major
Oh my gosh,
character.
yeah.
It was nuts.
I'm
And
probably going to watch this. I need to see if it's streaming anywhere during
the
quarantine.
concept of it was just nuts. It was just like, yeah,
So fun.
guys in near apocalyptic future have like a criminal cop thing. They get frozen. They wake up in the distant future and they go at it again because they're
Mhm.
like cavemen. It was just
Yeah.
like the 90s imagination.
But like the cops don't know how to defend because there's no crime left in the world. So
Yeah.
the
Which,
like
by
the
the way,
police
is a
officers won't
great
handle anything.
premise.
Yeah, it's wonderful.
That's a great premise.
It's so good.
It's so fun. I just hope that
Murder, Death, Kill.
I kind of hope it does well when it comes out so that I can get like a Tango and Cash. Because
Yeah.
that's another one that's like so ridiculously of its
You're always
era.
pushing your crazy agenda on this.
I
show.
love it.
Yes, I am, and they're
It's
awesome.
great.
No, we're going to move on now. So when we come back, we're going to get into our deep dive today about the finales of Clone Wars, Westworld. We got some comics to talk, and we're going to talk about a film that you horror fans should be checking out that we're coming way late to, but, still worth talking about. So
Mhm.
stay tuned for all of that. Okie dokie smoky. So starting right here. let's talk about Westworld first, just because let's bore the people. We're just coming off some excitement, so let's do something a little down. So Westworld ended season 3 with a very long episode that I fell asleep to at first. I had to wake up the next day and finish because it was. I found a lot of the season, to be honest. I didn't really enjoy Westworld season 3. I found it boring.
I can agree with you on that.
I even put in the show notes: is this show still worth watching? Was like our main kind of question for this segment. So anyway, Westworld season 3 came, and we got some quote unquote twists that we found out that our MacGuffin didn't even exist in this whole time. That Dolores, and there's going to be spoilers for the end of Westworld season 3, because if you care, why are you even not watching it by now? So anyway, so we found out that Dolores didn't have this magical, all-important key that Serac was looking for in her mind. It was all a bluff.
She had at one point, she just gave it away.
Yeah, I don't even, honestly, it's been hard for me to even piece back together what the hell this season was even about, what the overarching storyline is. Basically,
well, yeah, because they undermined basically the whole thing at the end of this one episode.
Yeah, but there's also
the
just a bunch of just half-ass twists in here,
or just extra information that we don't need.
Yeah. So anyway, Serac was building this big AI thing that calculated data about everything, so he could control humanity, kind of like the hosts were controlled in the park, and that was the whole connection. That since the beginning of this show, he was using Westworld as a way of perfecting a method of gathering data on people for this big AI system he built that gathered data on everybody in the world, so it could control the world and keep it from humanity from falling over the precipice by controlling, how people's futures went. Outliers, quote unquote, he would just kind of kidnap and cryo freeze or kill just to keep them from disrupting society if they look like they were going to be antagonists.
Boxes.
Yeah, basically like a cryo freeze thing. So
basically
Demolition Man. So
yeah.
And so he had this master plan, and he needed the kind of final data from Westworld to kind of complete this algorithm or whatever that would allow him to basically control the fate of humanity. And it was in Dolores's head, but not really. It wasn't really in her head. She gave it away. And so she was using Aaron Paul's character because he was this guy who was a soldier, and then became a soldier of fortune to kind of help with the Outlier program. That was like a big quote unquote reveal. He was a guy who he was a black bag man who snatched up people and helped this program kind of purify the world.
Mm-hmm.
But when he killed his best friend, who was like his little AI kind of therapist buddy, and because he took all these pills to not remember all these horrible things he did, he didn't really know who he had become. It was Memento and all that stuff. Thanks, Jonathan Nolan. But he's a showrunner on this, so it was a little bit of Memento in there. So anyway, so he finds out that Dolores selected him to kind of ruin humanity by uploading a program that would actually cause humanity's downfall. We didn't have that happen, but kind of Dolores made contact with Maeve, what's her name? Thandie Newton's character, who was hired by the guy to kind of hunt Dolores down because she's the other super robot. And she basically is now going to help Aaron Paul's character kind of set humanity free, or has let humanity.
The huge twist was that Maeve was against Dolores, and then literally at the very end, she flip-flops after Dolores is completely drained and basically deleted. Memory is everything deleted off of Dolores. And then I think that's the biggest twist of the whole episode, is that Maeve actually decides to go Rambo and just kill off everyone in the room that she was working for, and
but it was
walk out the door with our soldier friend.
Yeah, but that was not even
start a new world.
You knew that was coming from the beginning. I didn't ever think Maeve was really gonna help.
I didn't think she was gonna do that, but I don't know. I honestly didn't know what. I had no expectations.
Yeah, there is no expectations to have.
Yeah, the only thing that really kind of just bothered me was that we didn't get any. First of all, the Man in Black, he's my favorite character, and he's been replaced with Yeah,
well, I was gonna get to that. Yeah, so. Yeah. At the very end, the only good things, because we know this show's been renewed for season 4, and the only good things that kind of redeem it are there were some interesting post-credit scenes. The first one, which is you find out Dolores made copies of herself. That was the big mid-season twist. that you find out all the other robots that escape Westworld are actually copies of Dolores that she just put herself into different bodies, basically. And one of them is Tessa Thompson's character, Charlotte Hale, who ran the company that made Westworld. And she got blown up in one of the near season end episodes, but she survived. And she's the one who betrayed Dolores and kind of let her get captured and killed. So we find out in the finale, the Man in Black, William, the guy who founded Delos and helped build Westworld, Ed Harris's character comes and he's trying to stop because he realizes that Charlotte, that Dolores is still out there making more robots and he wants to stop them, but they kill him and replace him with his own robot copy. And you see the factory in the basement of the company's startup. And basically what this version of Dolores, who is Charlotte, is going to do is basically manufacture her own copies. She's going to replace everybody in the world with robots. So that's, yeah.
I thought the whole thing was going to be from the beginning, like from season 1, I thought. But I'm so upset. I hope we don't lose Vincent because he is so great.
He's dead AF. That dude's dead AF. That was like a one-off villain role. He's gone. Yeah. Vincent Cassell's
man.
Stuck with
he was just so good on the show.
Yeah, he was a great villain, and he had a really just stupid ending. So
yep, I agree. It was such a cop out.
Oh, that was the other twist. You find out he's not really a man. This charismatic villain guy is not really a guy. He was the AI program using him as a puppet.
Mm-hmm. Just telling him what to do. But I think that he elects to follow. Like he truly believes as a human.
Well, it showed that he was crazy at the end. He thought it was his brother, that he had preserved everything about his brother in there. So he thought that his dead brother was talking to him, and he was just a nutcase.
Right.
So
and then the Bernard cliffhanger.
Post-credit scene is that Bernard went to robot heaven to go because that's where Maeve is trying to get, where she sent her daughter and stuff, was his digital heaven basically, and he's been trying to get there. And so he goes in and he puts on this headset and he says he's going to go check out Robot Heaven and find a way there. And so the last post-credit scene is he wakes up in the hotel room where he put it on his head, but it looks like an insane amount of time has passed because it's covered in dust and it sounds almost like there's bombs or something going off outside. It sounds like it's a very different world that he came back to and that he's been gone for a very long time. Because Bernard's, of course, a robot. So he's been just out of commission for who knows how long. So it sounds like season 4 could be a very interesting place because basically what Maeve and Aaron Paul do is cause anarchy and give people true freedom of their fates. But they immediately, it doesn't go well. People start, freaking out.
Falls apart.
Yeah, it kind of falls apart, society. And so we don't know, what it's going to be, how many robot replacements there will be, and what kind of world, Westworld season 4 could open up. It could be an interesting place again where, actual surprises about what's real and what's fake. And the things we got into this show for are actually back, and they were sorely missing from season 3. Really, the more straightforward for everybody who said season 2 was too confusing. Thank you. We now have season 3. So
right.
Hopefully we get more of a balance in season 4 again.
Mm-hmm.
So that was Westworld. All right, moving around from that, let's talk Clone Wars. So this is going to be major spoilers for the end of Star Wars Clone Wars. Clone Wars came to an end, and even though we knew where this show was going, obviously we knew, it still has not kind of lessened the power of these last episodes. And even though some people have some kind of arguments about the pacing of this last season, there are about 12 episodes and there were 3 arcs. There was kind of a first about this expertise clone soldier of mutant clone soldiers and them working with Kenobi and Skywalker. Then there was this Ahsoka kind of personal story arc that people hated. And then this was the big finale arc, was the kind of Revenge of the Sith interquel story about Ahsoka and Darth Maul and Order 66 and all that stuff. So this final episode picks up where the last 2 episodes are when Ahsoka has kind of dueled Darth Maul. She won, she captured him, and she was assigned to take him back to the Jedi Council on Coruscant right before the events of Revenge of the Sith happen. And so she has one final meeting with Anakin and Obi-Wan before she went to kind of capture Darth Maul. And when she comes back, she talks to Yoda, and they did a great splice together from an exact scene from Revenge of the Sith, where the Jedi Council's talking about beginning to figure out that Palpatine is the Sith Lord. And that's when Mace Windu is I'm going to go confront this dude. And like Ahsoka walks in like right after that, and she kind of has this moment because Darth Maul told her that Anakin Skywalker was going to be turned, but she didn't believe him, so she didn't tell Yoda like what she heard. And so like that was like this big kind of moment of fate that like things could have gone the other way. And so she takes Darth Maul and she's going back to the Jedi Council on Coruscant, the home world where Anakin lives and the Jedi Temple is. And then Order 66 happens. But because Darth Maul told her that Sidious's plan was about to go down, and that everything in the galaxy was going to change, she feels the moment where Anakin kills Mace Windu, her master kills Mace Windu and turns to the dark side. And so she has a moment, like a second heads up she needs to survive getting killed in Order 66. And so the penultimate episode was her escaping into the ship. She's on a Star Destroyer, and she frees Darth Maul, and she frees Clone Trooper Rex, who's like the main clone trooper in Clone Wars, the good guy. And we know he survives into Rebels, and because he lives in hiding. He didn't get brainwashed by Order 66. So we figured out all that. So this last episode was just how did they get off this Star Destroyer and escape, and like what that all was about. So it was pretty straightforward. It was just a nice action-packed episode of two people trying to escape a Star Destroyer while Darth Maul kind of just wrecks it and has this awesome like Rogue One Vader sequences where he just is walking through a starship, like murdering clone troopers using the Force. He doesn't even have a lightsaber. So he's just like crushing them and choking them and like
That's
slamming
so
things
awesome.
into them. It is so awesome. And he walks in the engine room and just uses the Force and just rips out the hyperspace drives while they're in hyperspace.
Gosh.
And they get pulled into a moon and they crash land. And so there's this awesome like Ahsoka crash. And some of the best sequences in Clone Wars are Ahsoka, like aerial stuff when things are like when ships are crashing, like how she just like hops from thing to thing to thing and then like gets back to the ground. So there's this awesome sequence of the ship crashing and her like and Rex surviving and barely making it. But then we get to this big thing that has gotten people like and has nailed like Star Wars fans right in the feels, which is it ends in this epilogue where they're on the ground and they've crashed and they survive. Darth Maul escapes on a shuttle to go do whatever he's going to do in Solo and Rebels and all that other stuff. But Ahsoka she managed her own clone trooper division called the 501st, and that's who she was on the ship with, who turned against her. And so she and Rex like create this grave site where they bury them all with these sticks in their helmets.
Aww.
Yeah, and she's just like watching it, and they like fly away because they have to repair the one shuttle that's like left on the ship, and they fly away. And so they fly away to go into hiding, and that's like the end of their story. But then there's an epilogue that cuts to years later, presumably, because it's all like snow covered, the ship's buried, the graves are all kind of like iced over and stuff. And Darth Vader finally tracks down the ship, and you just see him walk out into the snow. And when Ahsoka left, she had her lightsaber that Anakin had given her in her hand, and she's holding it, and she decides that she didn't want to be a Jedi anymore, so she drops it in the snow and walks away. And she drops it on the ground and walks away, and Darth Vader senses it, and he picks it up out of the snow, and he kind of ignites it, and there's this awesome shot of him like in front of the graves just holding it, and it's a blue lightsaber, and like it's just him kind of holding a blue lightsaber and looking at it. And then he hears a bird cry overhead. And this is where you had to be like really watching. This is where it gets Star Wars on you. And we lose Janelle. So like there's a bird circling overhead and he looks up and he's just kind of staring at it. And then he just like puts down the lightsaber and he kind of walks away. And that's like in the end shot is this awesome shot of a clone trooper's helmet like cracked and in the snow. And it's just like his reflection as it fades away after he walks far enough away. And
I'm literally Googling images of this because you're being so descriptive. And I'm like, I have to see this artwork.
And it's all quiet. It's like, it's a very quiet episode at the end. There's like no music. It's just like sounds.
Wow.
Like it's really great. It's like very meditative. And the bird is a symbol of the daughter who is this, the entity of the light side of the Force who saved Ahsoka's life in this key story arc from Clone Wars that when Anakin found out the prediction that he could become Darth Vader for the first time. And like it's basically became her symbol. So the bird is always like a symbol of her and the light side of the Force. And so like Anakin, it's just like this moment where Vader is kind of like remembering for a second like who he is or like who he was. And then he just is kind of like F it, and then he like kind of extinguishes it and he walks off into like the snow. And so like it was great. And I set that all up to say Clone Wars is by far, now that it's done, the greatest Star Wars story in the whole series. Like hands down none. I watched the first movie that started it again, like immediately after the ending. Yeah. And like, yeah, when Anakin first meets Ahsoka as a little girl and they first becomes her Padawan, And like, yeah, this series is just the greatest Star Wars story ever told.
I have goosebumps.
Props to
I'm
Dave
gonna. I
Filoni
got
and,
it.
like, everybody.
I can't
like,
look. I can't argue with you because I have been in and out. Like I've been in and out. Like I watched some of the Clone Wars, and I would come back, and then like Rebels caught me, and then I would kind of be in and out. But every time someone describes it, like they'll describe an episode, and half the time it's you. Like half the time it's Kofi because like he'll talk about an episode. I'm like, oh my god, I need to like go watch that right now. So like all these people will describe these, and it's such a amazing thing to like watch a character grow and evolve, and like they really did that with Ahsoka. Like it's amazing to see like
they
where
did
the
that
character.
with Ahsoka. They did that with, I mean, going back and watching the early episodes, like Anakin Skywalker. Like this series is the only one that really makes you like understand like why Anakin Skywalker was the man, like why everybody thought he was going to be like the greatest Jedi ever, why he was a hero of this war, but also why he had these kind of really underlying dark side, tendencies that eventually do come out as Vader. And it did a great job of just doing that, like in both those characters together. And like, yeah, I mean, Clone Wars is just next levels. I mean,
and just seeing what they did with Maul, like talk about a character getting their due, like finally getting their due. Like after everyone saw the cool design and the cool saber, and then it was like, oh, he's dead. And like and the comics did that a little bit. Like there's some really cool comics that have Maul in them, but like this was like really gave that character his due, and like finally like, no, this is what the character could be.
And they did a great job. And Sam Witwer, the voice of Maul, did a fantastic job with making that character so much more interesting over Clone Wars. The battles, the duels, like there are just so many that are just so great. And like, yeah, it's all on Disney Plus now. Like I invite you just to sit down and just watch it. There's tons of articles. We have them on Comicbook.com that tell you, even if you just want to hit the best arcs in the series, like the most interesting ones, or the most canon relevant ones, like all the big duels like Ahsoka and, all that stuff, and Anakin, and times he met, like Moff Tarkin when he was young, and all that stuff is in there. So those are great arcs. The Darth Maul stuff, like Asajj Ventress. Clone Wars, though, Dave Filoni and everybody who made that show, and the music this last season was just phenomenal. Me and JK were talking about it, like just the music in these last episodes, this kind of dark Revenge of the Sith, like really kind of almost horror music-y stuff they do. It's really great. So yeah, the power of that last episode was great. People are feeling the feels. I was. And it really makes this whole story about this guy's fall and becoming Vader feel actually like so much more tragic than the movies do. So you got to check it out.
I will definitely do that. That's
I will
awesome.
also say, like Kofi said with Sam Witwer, can we just I'm going to throw some additional appreciation his way. The dude has given us the like definitive Darth Maul, I would say. He's also my definitive Doomsday. Like his Smallville Doomsday is to me my favorite and the best interpretation of that character, period. Because he made him a character, not just this giant monster that shows up out of nowhere and was just like a way to kill Superman. Like props for taking two characters that like were like and making them incredible.
Yeah, no, he's done a good job, and he doesn't deserve the hot water he's in right now for saying some stuff he said about The Last Jedi and whatnot. But that's a different story. All right, so moving right along. A movie recommend real quick. People like horror, people like zombies around here. So we decided to give something to Janelle to watch. She was asking me like what she could watch for the show. And since we don't have any Walking Dead finale to speak of right now, or
so sad, yeah.
Future, I recommended something I was way late, but I got to now, and I'm happy I did, which is the Korean hit film Train to Busan, which is still on Netflix at the moment. And it's a zombie horror film that, as you can hear, is set on a train going to a place called Busan in Korea. And basically what Train to Busan is a story about a businessman who's kind of been neglecting his young daughter, and to the point where she now wants to.
They really hate financial traders there.
Yeah.
Like he gets such a bad rap. Like they're so,
as they should.
Oh, you're a bloodsucker. Like they hate him just by what he does for a living.
Basically, like, so he's going to take her, because he's messed up her birthday, he's going to take her on the train to Busan to go see her mother, because they're separated or divorced. And so he's going to take her there. But as they get on the train in the background, and it's done really well that in the background of all this kind of family drama, they don't notice like the entire country is being overrun by a zombie outbreak. And so as they get on this train with all these people and they pull out of the station, they don't know that it's like literally the last second before like a horde of zombies just comes and like, you know, just eradicates everybody at the station. So it's a modern Korean like super train, and they have TVs and all that stuff and Wi-Fi. So as the train gets going, they begin to figure out that the country's falling under what looks like a mass infection, and nobody can figure out what's going on, and society's kind of crumbling, and they're trying to keep it together on the train. But of course, some of the infected are already on the train, and so things go from bad to worse. And the reason that it came out in 2016, so it's not a new movie. Like I said, I was way late to it. I had heard about it, but I never checked it out because, I mean, K-horror was kind of still, this was one of the big breakout hits, and K-horror is now getting a lot of attention as Hollywood looks to come and steal from it and make a bunch of remakes and do all that stuff. And this has been one that's been talked about for some time. It hasn't happened yet, but it's been talked about. But it's a good one to kind of revisit now, because what Train to Busan does is, you know, zombie stuff's only good if there's like actual social themes behind it. Like that's what Ramiro started, like, and all that. So what Train to Busan quickly becomes as you watch it is less about zombie stuff, but how do people deal with kind of in almost on the nose for where we're living right now, something like a mass outbreak and a mass pandemic.
Yeah.
Because it's not
literally
just
going, hey, you're going to the quarantine zone, and it's
Yeah,
the
like-
government is supposed to be quarantining
Yeah,
a station,
yeah.
and they get
There's-
off and they lost control of the quarantine.
yeah, there's all this stuff about like quarantines, government, and because it's Korea, there's also themes about like government transparency and lies.
Mhm. Oh yeah, on the news they're like, we don't believe you're in any immediate danger.
Yeah,
And it's
all
like-
that stuff about like, you know, downplaying how bad the
Yep.
problem is.
Mhm.
People's inability to kind of accept that this is the new status quo, that society is gone and like we're now in survival mode and quarantine mode. What happens when people begin to turn at each other because they think somebody may be infected even though they don't have the facts, and they're like,
Yep.
I don't think you should be in here because you may be infected. And it's scary how much it actually is perfectly in step like with the world we're living in right now.
Right now, yeah.
And what we're dealing with, and just the level of just anxiety and paranoia and fear people have about everything from day-to-day contact with other people to
Yep.
just society and what we're being told by the government or not told. And like, so yeah, I mean, it's not going to make you feel better. That's all to say. Like,
It's also not going
Yeah.
to make you freak out.
yeah, it's not going to make you freak out, but it just feels
Yeah.
timely. Like if you're just now
good,
discovering
yeah.
it 4 years later, this doesn't feel old.
And
It
it's well
feels right
done.
now. Yeah.
Right. And it's not dated. Like the production is great. I liked something as simple as the very first scenes of the movie are literally a quarantine zone where you like this guy drives up and they're all in hazmat suits and they're spraying down the car, and they mention like, oh yeah, there was some biotech like leak or something, and they're just like brushing it off like it's nothing. Even the guys that are working in the hazmat suits are like, oh, it's nothing. And then it's really cool because a deer gets hit in the first scenes, and it's a zombie deer. And you know we're living in a time of zombie deers. Like you
Well,
guys
it gets
know this,
hit
right?
and it dies, and then like the scene
It
is 'cause
comes
it's-
back to life.
and it is great, like what Janelle's saying. It's a guy who is a blue collar worker in his truck, and he's like, you know, his basic the opening monologue is him saying, "This is going to screw up my business. Who cares about all this? Like, I got to get to work. Like, I have real stuff to worry about." And so, like, he hits a deer, and then he's like, "Oh crap!" and he drives off, and he's like, "Oh man." And then the deer like does this crazy like jerky, like gets back up. From the
So
dead.
funny. That's the chronic
like,
wasting
yeah.
disease with the deer. I mean, we literally have zombie deers and people are still eating them right now in the real
Yeah.
world. Like,
And
wow.
so like basically like, yeah, it gets back up. And so that's kind of sets the tone. And that's what it's really about, because
Yeah.
the villain of the film is this guy who turns out to be like he doesn't care about anybody else's well-being or anything. He's just trying to do whatever he has to do to take care of himself and screw everybody else, and like
Mhm.
yeah, and like that. And so it's more about how society holds together or not in these extreme situations.
Yeah.
And how it makes you re-examine your values, because business bro has to realize like, business bro stuff doesn't really matter anymore.
Yeah. And the walkers or that's The Walking Dead. The zombies are really cool. Like they're frightening.
Yeah,
Some of the Walking
you wanna
Dead,
know what kind? They're 28 day later, like fast.
yeah, they're
Like,
fast. They're aggressive.
fast
I love
affection. Like
the
not
eyes.
like
Yeah.
not like you're gone for 2 minutes and like no, it's like you
They're
got
so
bit
good at
and
that,
you're,
like
like
twisting, like contorting, like it's very
no.
well done. We're
and it's
very
like
well
yeah.
acted.
And it's like also like Snowpiercer, which was also from a Korean director, but like there's a blessed simplicity. Like we have to go from car A to car B, and there's no way to do that except go through car C, which is full of zombies. And how are we getting through car C? And like,
Yeah,
you gotta
that's
get through car
where I
C.
am right now. Oh my gosh, that's so great.
So Train to Busan's good to check out. I'm not gonna take too much time up, but
Mhm.
check that out if you're looking for something that is a great horror movie that actually says something that actually speaks to today.
Right.
And so Matt, Streets of Rage, talking about real life stuff. And we've been talking about the scene outside your grocery store or Home Depot. What are you talking about?
Talking about Streets of Rage 4, the sequel to the hit Sega Genesis series that, gosh, that kind of defined, like if you say 90s, you think Streets of Rage. And this one is
I think Final Fight, dog.
Well, Final Fight 2. Final Fight 2, yes, absolutely. Streets of Rage, though, this one is a, like, not, I wouldn't say budget. I would say perfectly priced, like $25 game. So it's not a full $60 game. It's perfect for that traditional beat 'em up style, which this brings back. It's very much the game you remember. They streamlined some special moves and everything feels really crisp. So it has like modern mechanics, but it is still like you're picking up crowbars, you're picking up giant turkeys laying on the ground, you're picking up apples and like getting health, and you're throwing knives and tasers and stuff like that. It's very much that classic style. What I will say is it's absolutely gorgeous. Like if you've seen screenshots of this game,
it looks like a comic book.
Yeah,
it's
it looks
so
like a
pretty.
cartoon, like a straight up animated cartoon come to life. Like those old games look extremely dated, especially because of the sprites used and stuff like that.
Right.
This, and what's great is that you can unlock in this game the old characters from like all the other games, and they're done in their sprite pixel-based, or sorry, they're pixel-based versions.
That's really cool.
You have these like crazy, awesome looking characters in the new one, and then you have fighting right next to you the straight up old pixel blocky characters from the
love that.
Yeah, it's cool. It very much feels like a love letter to fans of the original. There's actually a couple different instances where you have to do something very specific. You essentially have to take like a taser, and there's arcade units spread out through certain levels. If you take a taser to the arcade unit, you are entered into a retro level from the original game.
That's pretty bomb.
And so you play through that. You only get one life. So if you die anywhere in there, you're sent right back out to the regular world, and then you can't like complete it until like you try again through the next playthrough. But it's stuff like that. There's characters from the original game that you can unlock. It touches on the story, which there was a very light story about like Organization X, and this one is like Organization Y. I mean, it's not gonna break your brain. It's not Westworld. It's not gonna break your brain on story and stuff. But it's very like, it's perfectly priced. It feels really good. You can beat it in about 3 hours, like 3.5 if you're pushing it. Like you can probably honestly beat it quicker than that. But for new players, it has 4 player co-op local, and then it has 2 online. So it really is, I mean, for the price point, it's really fun, and it plays really well. It's gorgeous. It's a perfect game for longtime fans, and if you've got someone new who just wants to break into a new game, it's the perfect thing to hand a controller to and go, here's what you do. You punch, you kick, you do a couple of special moves, and that's it. It's a blast. So for the price point and everything, I really enjoyed it. You can check out my full review on Comicbook.com.
All right, now close us out with comics because we got to get out of here.
Yeah, so first thing real quick before we get into new comics, me and Janelle have been talking about, where we did the Doctor Strange list, and she's working her way through there. We'll have an update next time on like her status there, but we're gonna start kind of doing like showing these lists. We've gotten a lot of requests to like put the list somewhere so that people can kind of follow along and kind of dive in with us. So we're gonna start doing other characters. So if you've got a recommendation, if you want to see Captain America, for instance, or Iron Man, or some of the characters that D-list characters that I love, if you want to see like deep dives on those characters,
all of it.
let us know. Hit us up. Use the Comic Book Nation hashtag, or just hit us up on our personal accounts. But let us know what characters you'd like to see, and we'll definitely kind of keep those in the flow. But real quick on comics. So we're finally getting new comics. This Wednesday, we're going to get DC is going to be the really only one doing regular releases, both physical and digitally. So you'll be able to get a handful of titles. They're holding back some. So the next issue of Batman's not coming till June, but you are going to be able to get a few books. So Batman and the Outsiders, number 12, Flash, number 753, Green Lantern, season 2, number 3, Hawkman 24, Joker, Harley, Criminal Sanity, number 4, Lost Carnival, which is their part of their new, I always call it DC Inc. It's not that anymore, but it's essentially their YA line of graphic novels. They've been spectacular. So this one focuses on Nightwing. We also have My Video Game Ate My Homework, which is another in that line. And then we have Young Justice Volume 1, which is the Brian Michael Bendis, very fun series. So you can get Volume 1. That's new books this week. Updating for the rest of the month, though, we're going to actually get to a point where we have new books from all the publishers. So looks like everybody, let's see, we've got Image, Aftershock, Boom, IDW, Dark Horse, and Marvel will all be coming on the 20th. There is one publisher that is doing them on it might actually be Marvel, is doing them on the 27th. So they're bumping it out just another week. But most of the publishers are going to at least have one, if not a few books physically in stores and digitally on May 20th. So we will actually then really start getting our normal
exciting
books. Yeah, but DC right now is going to be kind of the books we get for over the next few weeks. So that is comics.
Okay, well, that'll do it for this edition of Comic Book Nation. I want to thank everybody for coming on and hanging out with us as we continue through this quarantine life segment of the show. Thank you to Janelle Wheeler. Thank you to Matthew Aguilar. That was because I didn't know what I was going to say next, but now
thank you, Kofi.
You're welcome. That was a fake thank you. That was just, that was like a time. That was a stalling. That was a stalling. Thank you. Thank you.
Professional podcaster.
Yes.
That was actually really great. It was smooth.
Yeah, that's how I do it. Just got pleasantries. Pleasantries get you all out of all kinds of trouble. If you're just now getting into the show because you've been on lockdown and haven't had anything better to do, that's okay. We'd love to have you. We put up new episodes every Wednesday and Friday on Comicbook.com, where you can subscribe to our RSS feed and get regular updates about the show. Or you should probably subscribe to us on your favorite podcast listening platforms. We're on iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher, Google Podcasts, Google Playlists, iHeartRadio. You can also find episodes of the show on the Comicbook.com YouTube page. If you want to hit us up about any topics you want to see discussed, anything you want to talk to us about, or just any reactions you have to anything you heard in the show, you can always find us at the hashtag Comic Book Nation, or you can find me at Kofi Outlaw.
You can find me at Janelle Wheeler, Twitch, and all the other socials.
And you can find me at Matt Aguilar CB.
That'll do it for this edition of the show. We're still not back in the office, but as I said, the offer still stands. We're going to do a major t-shirt giveaway when we get back into the office. We do them to people who leave 5-star reviews on iTunes. So when we get back to the office eventually after this pandemic, after we flatten this curve, we are going to go in. We're going to be reading a big, appreciative, long list of reviews and send a bunch of people some t-shirts. So go on iTunes, leave those 5-star reviews, and when we get back in, we can hopefully send you yours.
Yeah.
Thank you again for joining us on Comic Book Nation. We will be back every Wednesday, every Friday to hold you guys down during quarantine. See you then. Peace.
Deuces.